I kind of hate the term like self-care isn't selfish. Like self-care should absolutely be selfish.
Yeah. I am the black girl who's getting all of these awards for just being a black girl. Women have literally fooled themselves into believing that we are nothing without the validation of men, but we are everything all on our own. These are emotions that you feel. This is not your identity. As if it's our birthright. Struggles are, and it's not. It's not our birthright. Our birthright is joy.
Ooh, say that again. Hello and welcome to Neo Noir's Wellness Series, where we amplify the voices of Black people and people of color, sharing their stories of vulnerability, resilience, and wellness. I'm Jessica Brown, founder and clinical director of Neo Noir Therapy and Wellness in Washington, D.C. Today I'm joined by an incredible friend of mine, Ms. Shawndrea Rawal, of Project Snatched and The Inside Job. Drea Rawal is a performance specialist, health consultant, and the founder of Project Snatched. Drea graduated from Howard University, earning a degree in psychology with an emphasis on cognition and health education. With a holistic approach to nutrition, self-esteem coaching, and personalized training regimen, she has become masterful with maximizing potential and client satisfaction. Well, Drea, thank you so much for joining us today for the Wellness Series.
Thank you so much for having me.
So tell us more about Project Snatched and The Inside Job. What was the inspiration for getting that started?
Project Snatched started in 2012 at Howard University. I was a pesky little undergraduate student. I came from running track in high school, so I was very active, very just athletic in general. And I went to Bird Gym one day and I was told that I didn't have access to the gym because I wasn't an athlete. Yes.
Wow.
So
and this is an on-campus gym?
Yes, this is on campus at Howard University. So I was like, first of all, I was taken aback. I'm like, how am I not allowed in the gym? There's cuties in the gym. But furthermore, I would love to work out. But went and talked to athletic director, and basically if you were not a part of any of the organized sports or any of the intramural sports at Howard University, you were not allowed access to the gym after, class hours. So if you were not in class in the gym, you had no business there. So I was like, wow, that's whack. So I thought to myself, what am I going to do about this? Because this can't stand. We are the #1 HBCU. Mm-hmm. Health in the Black community should be a priority, especially to the #1 HBCU. You know what I mean? So I wrote them a proposal and I kind of chewed them out a little bit about why this is important, why we should have a health program on campus, and I advocated for work study I advocated for work study to actually be a person who sat there and gave students access to the gym for 4 hours a day. So they took me upon my offer. So after my undergraduate classes, 3 times out of the week, I would be in Bird Gymnasium, sitting there, allowing people access into the gym. And so what I did from there, it's like people were coming to the gym. So I started what I call Snatch Camp. Snatch Camp is a class that is a fitness class. It's meant to have fun, meant to get your heart moving, but it was just meant to give women something to do, because of course they get to the gym, but they didn't know what to do, right? So I charged them $2.50 each class because I figured we're in college.
That's a steal.
Right, $2.50. So if you came to 2 classes a week, it was $5 a week. Yeah. So mind you, we're on Howard's campus, so we have every organization, every female from every organization. So there's a lot of networking going on, a lot of friendships happening, and it was a very good way for me specifically to make friends, because I wasn't a part of like any said group. I've always been a loner, I would say. I've always been like kind of an independent person just on my own. So it actually gave me the access to actually have a community of my own and build a community of my own, but also start my business from the ground up at a Black university.
That's incredible.
Right, thank you.
So it sounds like it came out of something that you needed for yourself, and then it just morphed into something that helped this point thousands of people across the country.
Oh yeah, and mind you, it's that freshman 15 is real. This was second semester sophomore year. Second semester sophomore year, I was, heavier and just feeling homesick and needed to figure out what was missing. And what I realized is I was a very structured young woman. I always had practice at 5:30 in the morning and practice in the afternoon. So I was always used to my mind being mentally active but intrigued by physical exercise. So that not being present in my life, that year and a half was a whack year and a half of not having that, that aspect of my life be so prevalent. So once I became aware of it, I was like, wow, I now I understand why people do this every day, or why they find this so important every single day.
I love that. And I love that you hit on the physical aspect of it, because when we think about kind of these multi-dimensions of wellness that include mental health, physical health, spiritual health, occupational health, etc., I would love to learn about how the other areas were affected when that physical piece was missing for that period of time.
Oh yeah, so it's so funny because I never really thought of them both being connected until that it impacted me in that way. Me not being physically active, I ended up having a lot of time that I did not have before.
A lot of idle time.
Right, a lot of time that I did not have before. And what they say is true. Idle time is the devil's playground. It really is. And it's not as if I was doing something bad. It's just I wasn't doing anything good. You know what I mean? So it's one of the things, if you're not doing one, you're probably doing the other. And being stagnant is neither here nor there. But I wasn't treating my body well. I wasn't even paying attention to my body. I was not. I actually, for that year and a half, I would say I felt like I was living outside of my body because it was so unrecognizable to be within it. Even my actions, you know what I mean? And it's one of those things where you now in hindsight, I can see like, wow, girl, you were all over the place. You probably had no idea what you're doing. But, I can see now that was my first year away from home. That was my first year being a young woman by myself, making every decision for myself, by myself, and not having anyone to help me.
Right.
Guess what I did for myself? I got kicked out of school. Oh yeah, girl, I got kicked out of school. I got kicked out of school. I had to appeal back to get back to Howard, all types of things. But that was the thing. I realized, I'm looking. I'm like, hey girl, you really got yourself here. But I just didn't have the structure that I was so used to and that I had implemented myself, and I had created an environment that was just of structure. I'm like, oh yeah, so this, looking back, I'm like, oh, this physical aspect created structure. And you didn't think it did, but it created structure, and that's what kept you mentally sane. That's what kept you mentally well.
So let's go a little bit deeper in that, because I love that you bridge that connection between the physical aspect and the mental aspect, and how your life was affected in terms of school and your social life and et cetera was affected by kind of this missing link. What was the mental challenges like? What were you experiencing internally from an individual level?
Ooh, internally, it's one of those things where I'm coming from a very, very urban area where I am the black girl who's getting all of these awards for just being a black girl and being bright and being irregular, right? And you go to this plethora of black excellence, and you're just like, yes, I'm with my people, and everybody here is like me, but also everybody here is not like you. Everybody is different, and I had never been exposed to blackness on such a large platform. Number one, I'm from Southern California, so I'm not, and I've lived and had many experiences, but I had never seen black people on this level. I had never seen success on this level in general. I come from a big family who, for all intents and purposes, weren't the most, didn't have the most opportunities to make things different for themselves. So me going there was kind of like a hit in the face of, this is everything you can be, but this is where you are. So I'm here faced with all of these challenges and choices of who I can be, and everything that I thought I was is now, it doesn't matter. It does not matter. No one cares. No one knows Shawndrea here. When I went to college, I was Drea, because I got tired of people saying Shawndrea was hard to pronounce. So I was like, you know what? Everyone just call me Drea. And now, 10 years later, I can definitively say I had recreated myself to step into that, because I did not feel worthy coming from where I came from. I did not feel like I was a person who was supposed to be at Howard, who was supposed to be dropped there in amongst this, sea of people who were all going somewhere and who were all on this fast track to just excellence. So being there was like a slap in the face. So now I'm like, who do I want to be? And that was the big mental game for a year and a half. Who do I want to be? And what I came back to when Project Snatched was birthed was who I've always been. Be who you've always been, because you weren't a bad person. I don't know why at some point I had deemed in my head that like I was a loser before I got there, like everybody was better than me, or if I just wasn't enough. But after that year and a half of crisis, I was like, you know what, you were kind of cool. You were kind of cool. You weren't a bad person. People liked you. Like, but it was the trauma that I experienced that made me feel as if, yeah, girl, be someone else.
Can we go a little bit deeper into that trauma piece? What, if you don't mind sharing, like, what did that trauma look like for you, and how did that influence your wellness journey?
The real question is where to start. So I'll say just in general, my childhood was tumultuous. I'm very aware that my childhood was tumultuous. There's a lot of things in my childhood that were normalized to me that are just not, I had talked about casually, and people are like, wow, that's not a casual circumstance.
Right. It was normal to you.
It was normal to me. I lived it. It was normal.
Yeah.
And it was what it was. But I grew up with my grandmother for the most part, in lieu of like foster homes, because my mom was a young mother who was, now it's so funny to think about now, like how much grace I have for her now. But being a young 22-year-old mom of 4, what was I doing at 22, right? So, and being in the streets and being, her battle with drugs and, all the things that she was dealing with, but being a kid in the midst of all of these grown-up circumstances, I'm in and out of foster homes, in and out, just with different family members. So I never had a sense of stability ever. I have always, that's why I think I take very well to change, because stability is not a thing for me. So now in my life where it's so funny, I'm getting to this place of everything is becoming extremely stable. I'm triggered. Jess, I'm triggered by stability.
And that's so common, because there's so many people that grow up, like you said, in chaotic environments or unstable environments. And when you finally have some stability, it's so unnatural and so uncomfortable that you have to generate some type of chaos to bring you back to that.
I cried for a month. I cried for a month. I had never not struggled, whether it had been on my own, and I don't know why. Whoever taught me this, please, thank you. But we find so much. Yeah, there's beauty in the struggle, but we find pride in it for some reason as Black people. You know what I mean? And as if it's our birthright. Struggles are, and it's not. It's not our birthright. Our birthright is joy. Our birthright is freedom.
Say that again.
So I booked my first session with a therapist. And what was really interesting about it was the relief I felt.
Yeah.
The relief I felt. The relief of knowing I'm in someone's office and they know that something's wrong. That's what I think it was. It was like, how you show up to other places and you're like, you hope no one notices this split in my dress. You hope no one notices. But I showed up here, knowing that I'm messed up. So for me, it was kind of like, okay, great, fix me. And we had our conversation, and this is a person who said that he told me that I was very aware of all of these things. It was just more so of you navigating them and being willing to navigate them. And that's where I am now. So from there, I was like, okay, you know what? I'm going to just dive in. So with that and just help from my community and my friends and my clients, I'm like, okay, we're actually gonna do this together. So we had group intentional conversations that were led by a therapist, but just kind of kept questions that geared us into just having constructive conversation. And it shed a lot of light on everything that we all share, but everybody's different experiences. And what has been really freeing for me is the notion that there's so many other people who have had an experience similar to mine. We're never alone. Right? And you're never alone. And it's I think that was number one, but then also knowing that, again, these are emotions that you feel. Mm-hmm. This is not your identity. And that we all go through them.
Yeah.
And I think that was the biggest part for me, because I'm not an abandoned child. I was abandoned once. I'm not, you know what I mean? I'm not a bad person. I felt bad once. It's just not those things. So
it's just putting yourself first, and then the emotion or the adjective after
and disconnecting. Yes, and disconnecting yourself from whatever you might think makes you feel less than, because it's not real. So for me, that was a big thing. And in those therapy sessions, we had 8 of them. So we explored that, and I created the Inside Job Journal so I can actually write down these thoughts and literally get these things out. And that was really what it was for me. For me, it was more so of analyzing it and being one with it and being able to explore it without judgment. I had been searching for a lot, and I will say God has always been at the forefront, and at the forefront of everything that I do. But I think that redefining my relationship with God and actually creating my own relationship with God is really what turned things around for me. I was searching for my own experience, and what I realized is I had allowed people to determine who God was for me. So from October 2018 to January 2019, I was working at the behavioral center. I was working overnight. I'd get off work at 7 a.m. I'd drive right to the beach in Marina Del Rey, and I'd go meditate for an hour on the beach. And that, at first it was hard because I couldn't sit still, but I was told if you come close to water, God is literally the most potent in sources of water. So that's the closest you'll be to him. So I just sat on the beach, and the more I sat, the more enthralled my experience became, the more connected I became, to where I can literally look and feel and see the vibration of love that God has for me just literally now.
If God called you to be here today, then
He did.
That's really a blessing. Thank you. You've been a blessing to us.
No.
Well, as we wrap up, one of my last questions before I get into these quick fire questions, what is something you would tell your younger self?
Oh my gosh. Well, I had a reputation for crying a lot, which lets me know that I have always been an empath. So I would tell myself to have fun more and to always stay open, because if one thing I will say about that little girl that I was, she was a brave little girl, because regardless of how bad she was hurt, she stayed open, and I think that is why she was able to evolve. So just have a little bit more fun, but be gentle with yourself.
Wow.
Yep.
I love that.
Yep.
All right, so I want to switch it up a little bit and ask you 3 quick fire questions.
Hopefully I can quick fire back at you.
And I didn't prep you for these, so.
Okay.
Okay, so the first one. What quote, word, or title would you say represents the stage of your life?
Ooh, this stage. Excuses are tools of the incompetent, used to build monuments of nothingness, and those who use them seldom amount to anything.
Okay, who's said that? Is that?
I have no idea.
Oh,
But that is my
Drea
favorite
original?
quote. That quote came from my Howard University organization, my freshman year organization, and that quote stuck with me through life. It's on my website. I use it every single day, because we can always find one. We can always find an excuse. Whether we use it or not, it just determines our character.
I love that. Okay, number 2. Describe yourself in 3 words.
Ooh. I am brave, ambitious, and loving. Brave, ambitious, and loving.
Brave, ambitious, and loving. Last but not least, tell us something new you learned during quarantine.
What have I learned? I learned that Black men are the most unhealed beings walking around. And it is my duty as a Black woman to love them. It is my duty. And it is my honor as a Black woman to love them. Indeed.
I mean, that's an incredible note to end on. Just drop the mic.
Drop it.
Ooh, the chills.
Yes.
Well, Drea, thank you so much.
I'm so grateful for you.